Right, welcome back. Shush, thank you very much indeed. We're on the air. Good evening. I think I'm probably going to fall out of this next bit because I found one person doesn't really like dogs.
You just said that to me. You know, I don't go as far as you do.
And, you know, so I do allow my biases to creep in every now.
I'm probably the biggest dog lover in the room.
You hate dogs. They don't like you
either. He does this because he's jealous because I know more about
dogs.
dogs.
So listen, if you're easily upset and offended, then sod off, because quite frankly,
be here in the first
I don't want
place.
you watching anyway.
I mean, look at us.
Now, Ollie London is still with us. Thank you, Ollie. And now we're joined by Venice Allan. Is that right?
That's right.
That's a strange name. Who is a woman's rights activist.
It's a very nice name, Venice, isn't it? Venice is nice.
Now, apparently, I'm told by the producer this is a great story. I couldn't really understand why, but perhaps somebody will tell me. In Hampstead, as I said before, there are these 3 outdoor ponds. There's a mixed one, a female one, and a man one. Yeah. And so
it's
apparently,
basically a gay one when I've been in the solarium bit, like sizzling sausages, all lying naked next to each other.
All right.
I couldn't cross them to go to the toilet.
And I don't know whether you have any of this problem where you are, but apparently trans people and Ollie want to go and swim in the women's one. When there's a mixed one, why the hell do these people want to do that?
Well, because they want to be treated as women. They think they are women. And we saw actually with the World Aquatics Championships, which is the world's swimming championships last year in Berlin, they made a trans category. And guess what? Not a single trans person wanted to be in that because they want to be women. They want to be treated like women.
Well, they're being bloody minded as well.
And also, some of them want to look at women when they're in their bathing suits. So that is wrong. So
because if you are a person, I mean, if you have not transitioned yet, then you need to stay in the pond that you are of the sex of, if you see what I mean.
But not what they voted for at the pond, and there was a big fight, wasn't there? Well, verbal fights.
Well, Venice has been on social media shouting her mouth off and telling everybody off, I believe. Well, I don't believe, I saw it. And did it do any good? I mean, have you got your way?
Well, we haven't got our way because we lost the vote. But we're...
What sort of people live in Hampstead?
Lefties.
Yeah,
champagne socialists. And now they've got it back. In a way, it's ironic, isn't it? They've got it coming back because these are the sort of people...
Kevin O'Sullivan lives there.
I know, exactly. These are the sort of people that would have been all pro and lefty. Now they've got it in their doorstep. They don't like it. It's a bit like when the MPs all complain. Once it comes to them, they moan about it.
Well, there were...
Am I right or am I right?
Well, there were over 200 women at the meeting and only around 50 of us voted to keep it single-sex or to make it single-sex because they already made it male-inclusive in 2018.
So what about the other one where it's just male-inclusive?
Do trans men go in the men's one?
Why don't women go in there?
In the men's pod?
Yeah, do trans men
go in there? Well, they can. They've got
trans
the
men do go in there. They're all-inclusive. The policy, as far as I believe, is the entire Corporation of London, the entire City of London Council. Every single one of their single-sex spaces is trans-inclusive.
But it's driven away religious people.
The
Hasidim won't swim there. They used to religious Jews and some of the Muslims. They won't go there now because effectively they see it as women going in there.
Not just religious women. My mother, who's 79, she won't go there anymore.
Want young girls going if some men are trying to be sexual about it and using it as a Trojan horse to look at young children or women.
But why? I do not understand why this is a minority of a minority. And I know a number of people who've transitioned. You wouldn't even know that they weren't what they are today. You wouldn't know. They don't make any fuss about it. You would talk about it. I mean, some people, sadly, they transition and they still have quite male sort of sounding voices or whatever. But
they walk like...
And so why has this, which is this is a serious subject.
No, you can always tell in the walk.
No, I will actually have you say
the shoulders.
Serious.
The hips don't lie.
Yeah,
exactly. But it's some people sadly don't have the wiggle. And you have to stop this. I mean, I remember what happened when I told you off the other day. You nearly got done then, and you might nearly get done again.
I'm on the edge.
So why has this, which affects a minority of a minority, and Ollie was talking about it earlier, because he was, when I first met him, as I said before, he was well on his way to becoming a Korean woman. Now, it sounds a bit silly,
It does.
but you transfixed on Korea. You loved Korea. and you wanted to become a career woman.
Would you have gone in the women's pond if you'd have gone to Hampstead, or would you go in the mixed pond?
I wouldn't have gone in the pond at all.
No, but say if you were there was a women's.
I wouldn't swim in.
Well, say it was a gym for just women, or would you go?
Well, I mean, I would still use the men's facilities because I was a guy. But sometimes I'd walk into toilets and the men would be like, "You're in the wrong toilet," because I did actually look pretty feminine, and I was like, "Oh no, it's fine." Then they hear my voice and they're like, "Okay." But no, I would either use a toilet that was like a disabled toilet that a disabled person wasn't using, it was empty, or just use a men's toilet.
Even if you'd had the operations, though, does that make a difference?
I don't think it makes a difference. I mean, just because they've gone to an extra extreme length, it doesn't give them the same rights as women. They'll never be women, unfortunately. They can identify in a certain way, great, as long as you're happy, but, you're not going to take away women's rights.
But if you didn't know that somebody, because they transitioned and they done it, quietly, they did it because and they were in their 30s, you wouldn't know. And so why has this minority... He wouldn't know.
I wouldn't know.
We would all know, just because you wouldn't know.
I find that slightly offensive, actually.
Why?
And I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because there are a lot of people who have transitioned quietly, done it because they have felt that's necessary, and have become very relaxed. What I don't understand is why some of these loud-mouthed ones, like the one I had a go at the other night, who think they can do whatever they... Well,
look at India Willoughby with, what's her name, Harry Potter woman.
I'm for
J.K. Rowling.
I'm for women's rights, and India Willoughby is just... I used to know her quite well, but I don't know what's wrong with her. But the question...
Is J.K. Rowling now suing her?
The question I'm trying to get an answer to...
She's too classy.
...is... How has this become such a big subject when it affects so few?
Can I answer that?
I wish you would.
It's become there's very few, it affects very few men who say that they're women, but it affects all the women that have to share the spaces with them.
That's another question. Why is it so many men want to become women and very few women want to become men? Or it seems like that to me.
Well, that's depending on age. So you never really see that many middle-aged heterosexual women transitioning into men. But you have got this new cohort of teenage girls, which is quite worrying because I think there's been a 5,000% increase.
It's a youth culture, it's like being a gothic now, isn't
girls
it?
Because
they get all the attention, and also a lot of them are neurodiverse. They found 70% are autistic, or I don't know. You'd probably know better statistics.
Yeah, I did actually research, but the majority of kids now transitioning are girls wanting to be boys.
Yes.
And the danger of that we're seeing in America, some of them are actually having their breast cut off without parental consent. So it's become so
and the binders
extreme.
of John Lewis, that was a disgrace, wasn't it?
It's disgraceful, and
But why has society accepted it in the way you were saying?
Isn't it?
The local authorities, and why do they... Do you mind swimming with a man or not?
I don't mind swimming with men when I'm in a normal swimming place, like I go to the mixed pond with my sons.
Yeah.
But when I'm in a female-only space, I expect it to be a female-only space. I don't want to... What I said in my speech, that they were creating a porn fantasy set for these men.
Yeah.
Because when
That's a very good way of doing it.
when I was a young woman and I used to swim
Don't
there...
even think about it.
my male friends would be like, "Whoa, I'd love to get in there." This fantastic oasis.
It's an opportunity. Of course, there's naturally going to be a few.
You know some very
people.
strange men. That's all I can say to you.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall in there, but now it's actually happening. It used to be a bad joke in the 1990s.
How often do you go there?
I've decided. Well, I was going, quite a lot in the summer, but now after that meeting, I've said, I'm not going back until.
No, I wouldn't. I mean,
until I'll go to the mixed pond.
Do you think it will cause a change?
But hang on, it'll be full of ducks.
I hope so.
It's about standing up, and women should refuse. Just with sports, women should refuse. All come together and say, we're not going to compete against a man. It's
but
not
they
fair.
haven't they?
You never get trans men
but we
winning.
need all women to
you
speak
never get
up.
trans men winning against
Why
women, do you? It's just misogyny, isn't it? It's just.
It is.
But the minority have control because of cowardice. People are scared of being called a transphobe.
It's those loud activists. It's the trans activists that represent a small minority of people. They also represent a small minority of some trans people.
But it's the cowards on the other side giving into them.
I mean, exactly. It's like, why cave into the woke mob? We saw, again, pro-Palestinian protests today. Super aggressive.
They're being enabled. You've opened the gates to the barbarians.
All right, calm down. So basically, this is something that I think we are moving away from now. I hope you agree. I think the woke wallies have lost it. And I think within probably 5, 10, 15 years, I think things will go back to the way they were, because I can't see this ridiculous stupid situation. I'd like to go into a men's only club sometimes and just sit with men and
Men
Why
only.
not?
You might get called transphobic for not being trans
I
inclusive.
might.
There was
They're
that
not
one,
called-
wasn't
I
there? What
don't
was it
mean
called?
gay nightclubs.
The one where you
I
used to
mean,
wear the
God's
toga.
sake.
Oh yeah, the Pleasure Dome. The Pleasure Dome at Waterloo.
I go to heaven regularly. No, I'm joking.
The toga.
I don't,
Nothing else.
Loads and loads of women, this is interesting, who complain about men-only spaces. And I think women should have women's-only spaces. I think women should be entitled, as they are, to have waiting rooms just for women on trains and places like that. But so should men, because there are some men who actually don't want to be around anyone other than a man.
We might want to talk about war and man's things, that might
I'm
make a
not
woman
talking
traumatic.
about gay people. Do you stop leaning over towards me like that, please? I'm not talking about gay issues.
Oh.
Sorry.
Chuck, I need a word with you after the show tonight. Seriously.
You hired him.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I
Your
just
own
got left
fault.
with him.
I hired him.
comes part
I
of you.
hired him, actually.
25 years ago.
This might be his
nothing to
last
do with
show. We'll see. Might just be me next week.
Why? What do you think? You're in charge? No, you're not in charge. And
We'll
it's
see
like
Friday
saying-
next
Yeah.
week.
Venice, so what is the way forward for this? I mean, when is this going to stop?
The way forward is that women and also men who believe in reality take back control.
Yeah.
We've got to take back control.
Won't it naturally happen in a cycle?
I think it naturally happen that at some point every single one of those middle class people in that room in Hampstead who voted for for our single sex space to be destroyed, they will all know a detransitioner. They will all know a woman who's been flashed at in a women-only space. So that's the end, but hopefully we can get there before that,
sexual
and we can
assaults.
prevent
Yeah.
those children making mistakes. We can prevent women getting attacked.
Did you get any kind of violent comeback? People sort of
Well, it was a
tweeting?
women-only meeting. Apparently there were two transvestites there, but women generally aren't that physically aggressive, and it was very
No, I
emotional.
mentioned social
Trans
media,
women
really.
are. That's the
Social media,
thing.
they gave up on me years ago, James. I've been campaigning on this issue since 2017. They tried it at the beginning. They go for the new women,
Yeah.
and who they like. Maybe you're going to be scared of, but I think they know that.
But
I'm not
violence
gonna be
amongst
scared of.
trans women is exactly the same as violence among men, the statistics of the
Yeah, well, I think it's actually higher, because if you look at incarceration statistics, there's a much larger percentage of the men who identify as trans are violent and sexual offenders than just regular men.
And Ollie, what about you? How do you think it's going to go?
Well, I was just going to say on that particular point, sometimes when we see statistics of there's an increase in female violence or criminals, that is because the trans prisoners are being ticked off as women.
Well, that happened the other day with the cat blender.
We've seen in
murderer.
America at least 5 or
That was
6
a man,
mass
and that-
shooters that were
Obviously.
trans.
And it skews the figures for research and the future.
Absolutely, and that's another dangerous thing as well. Women generally aren't violent. Of course, you get the odd few.
95% of murders
Especially
are
at these
done by
Palestinian
men.
protests, but most of them aren't. So when you're including a man and saying it's a woman legally and putting that on the record,
Skews
so
the
it
figures
skews
totally.
everything.
Yeah.
So
Skews
it's totally
everything.
wrong. And I think, like you said, James, there is hope, but everybody has to speak up now. And I think enough people are awake. 2 years
Yeah.
ago, people weren't speaking about this. Now we're all speaking up.
Absolutely. And I think you two should get together and probably do some campaigning
Absolutely.
together.
In the unisex pond.
Let's do it.
What have I struck
Make
here?
sure there's no one on
Thank you
board.
both very much indeed.
Nice
Thanks
to see
so
you, man.
much
See you
for having me
tomorrow.
I'm
on.
sure we will talk again soon. And you need to learn to love dogs.
I will.
That's all I'm saying.